Hey guys, welcome to TakTalk. TakTalk is brought to you by Vulcan Arms. Happy to be here and talk about all things tactical, just related to firearms in general in the 2A community. Today, the conversation is going to be about what do we do to be prepared if something were to happen that obviously none of us wish that's going to go down. What do we do to be ready, and why is it important to us to maybe carry a firearm and so on. So before we do that, jump into it, I'll give Andrew a chance to say hello and introduce himself.
Hey, what's up, guys? My name is Andrew Chevria. I work at one of the owners of Vulcan and a United States Army combat veteran.
How you doing? My name is Vincent Vargas, United States Army combat veteran as well, and former Department of Homeland Security Border Patrol agent with Special Operations BorStar.
Awesome. Thank you guys for being here. I am not a combat veteran like these guys. These guys have balls bigger than mine. I come from a military family, a naval family. Really, the fact that I didn't enlist was a real problem. It was a big problem that I didn't enlist, right? And but at the end of the day, I knew that probably wasn't the best move for me, and so on. And I've been able to ultimately be a part of really the Special Forces community and military in general through other ways and supporting guys like this. So I cherish every moment that I get with people like you. So when I talk about what do we do to stay prepared, what do we do in our daily lives to just be ready, I first think about why do I even think that's important, right? And so for me, I kind of look at it as, and I think that there are a lot of people, most people I think go through our life and just think it'll never happen to me.
Yeah. Yep.
Right? Would you guys agree with that?
100%.
And maybe live in, we're sitting in Plano, Texas. And Plano, Texas is a very nice area, right? Yeah. McMansions all over the place, beautiful homes, wonderful lawns, great schools. But the inevitable does happen here too.
Did you say McMansions?
McMansions, I did. They're all over the place, right? Nice. You live in a McMansion.
I don't
No?
know. Yeah.
Yeah, so, even in places like here that are perfect and beautiful, kind of what we think of the burbs, not too long ago, just 5 miles up the road at a shopping mall, there was a shooter.
Yes, there was.
Right? Yeah. That is a mile and a half from my son's home, right? And, the reality is there was a ton of people there, but how many people ran from the threat and weren't prepared to go to the threat and handle the threat?
Yeah, and recently there was also the country fair, the county fair.
Yep.
The state fair. There you go. The state fair. We were actually going to go that night.
Yep. Were you?
And we got busy with other things. One of my daughters was playing sports, and so we didn't go. And then the next morning, I was like, "Oh my goodness, would I have been ready? Would I have brought my gun that day?" Which normally I do or I don't. It all depends on kind of the situation dictates.
Right. Yeah. And so let's talk about that. Like, how often?
The Allen shooting, I was literally a mile away.
There you go.
Eating lunch with my wife.
Yeah. Wow, man. And so this goes into another part of this, right? And so with my wife, I've sat down and asked her. I do a lot of training. Yeah. I train a lot for a number of reasons, right? I feel I have a responsibility that if I'm going to carry a firearm, I need to be prepared to be able to handle that, right? And do it safely. That's one. The other is I enjoy it, right? It's fun to go shoot, kind of let off some steam, and get better incrementally every day at a skill, right? And it's a skill I enjoy to do. Yep. But I also talk to my wife with the understanding that I go to a lot of tactical training events. I do a lot of this, but I wanted to know from my wife that if a situation happened and we're at dinner, and a shooter comes in, what does she want from me too? Yeah. Right? Does my wife want me to hunker down and protect her? Or does she want me to go handle the threat? Because at the end of the day, if something happens in that situation to me because I go handle that threat, right? Yeah. And I become the one that gets shot and I'm no longer here, my wife's got to live with that. She's got to sit with that. Does that make sense? Yeah. So I wanted to know from her, like, what do you want? And she just, my wife said, she was like, I want you to make sure I'm good, but she says, I also know you, and you're not going to be able to not run to the threat.
I was going to say, my wife don't have that option, bro.
Right? My wife kind of said the same thing. Like, it's not really an option. I'm going.
Yeah,
right?
you feel, just from my lifestyle, I feel compelled to go protect those who can't protect themselves.
Right.
We run towards the bullets and away from them.
Right.
It's kind of a sheepdog thing. Yeah. It's kind of a sheepdog thing to me, right?
Yeah, it's very.
I need to take care of things, and that goes to then a question is if we're going to bother to carry, right? Are we prepared to pull the trigger, and can we walk away after that if we do have to drop somebody, and are we going to be okay after that? Yeah. Mentally, with our mental health, right? Something a lot of dudes don't talk about, our mental health. Absolutely, right?
Correct.
And so are we going to be okay with that? And personally, the answer to me is if somebody else was going to do harm to another person, I can absolutely walk away clean knowing that.
If the shot was justified and based on the fact that you have experience in training and know when to shoot, and if you felt compelled to pull your pistol out, well, then at that point, then the shot will be justified, and I think emotionally it should be justified as well.
Yeah, would you agree with that?
I would agree, D. You know, I'm of the mindset you're never going to draw your firearm unless you intend to use it.
Correct.
Yeah.
Like it's not something to use to enforce a threat or anything like that. If I pull my firearm, I fully intend to use it.
Absolutely.
So if I'm going to draw my firearm in a situation, the intent is I'm putting a bad guy down.
Right, and so that takes me to another thing is like, I was really proud of Texas actually, about, what is this, 3, 4, 5 years ago, whatever it was, when Texas went to open carry.
Yes.
Right? Which I believe in. Open carry, it's a right we have, right? But I was really proud of Texans because I thought that as soon as that dropped, we'd see guns on hips everywhere in Texas, right? I'm from Texas, and I thought we'd see guns everywhere, right?
The most tactically disadvantageous thing you can do.
Correct. And do you actually see that here? No, you don't. You don't see guns on hips, right?
No.
And the reality is, 90% of the time you see me in public, I've got a firearm on me. But are you gonna know? Is anybody gonna know? Absolutely not, unless I have to pull it out.
Yeah.
You know, it's because people are put harm. Now, I guess I'll ask the question, you know, to me, it's very much the, you know, sheepdog, I need to help protect other people around. Is there a deeper reason why each of you made that decision to carry each day?
No, you know, I think I go through these phases. You know, I've done this for a long time, and when you said that you enjoy shooting, I was like, I don't know if I enjoy shooting like I used to. I think that side of my world is different, where I do it because I need to be good at it. I want to stay proficient, but I don't necessarily do it because I enjoy it. Like, it's not like go out with the boys and go shoot.
So it's very much a tool to you.
Yeah, it's a tool. It's just like,
yeah.
I don't work out as much as I want to, but I definitely make sure I'm still working out at times to kind of keep myself in shape for a certain level. Like if I ever have to bring the fight to the enemy, whatever that enemy may be, right? I want to make sure that I'm kind of prepared for that. And I think actually, you know, 2020 COVID really kind of like woke me up again, right?
Okay.
It's like waking up that sleeping giant, right? That beast. You know, my years of doing the tactical stuff slowed down. I walked away from Border Patrol in 2015. I started doing the acting, and so my life kind of changed, and the people I'm around changed.
For sure.
So I don't feel the threat necessarily, and so that kind of fire in me was kind of dying. And then 2020 came, and I was like, yo, dog, I better be ready.
Things are getting crazy,
Yes.
right?
And so I went to the garage, and it actually was in there for about 4 hours. My wife's like, what are you doing? I was like,
dry firing or something, right?
All the things I need. Yeah, I had my kit on. And I'm like, yo. And it was like, I had to bring back years of muscle memory because I let myself get lax. And now I'm in the mindset like, you know, 2020, that whatever happened there could happen any day. And so I stay prepared for my family more so than anything. It's really them is the underlying reason.
That's cool. And so let me add something real quick on that. Like, interesting enough, during COVID, my wife and I were on a sailboat in the Caribbean. We had this opportunity, and I dreamed to always want to sail around the world. So we bought a sailboat, and we went to the Caribbean, and for about 3 years, we were cruising around island, right? While I was out there in the Caribbean, my boat was unlocked every day. We'd take the dinghy, it was unlocked. I never felt unsafe out there, okay? And then we come back during COVID because it was hard to get in and out of countries and stuff. And so we come back to the States because that was really our only choice at that point. And we didn't have a home because we'd sold everything. So we immediately bought an RV and started traveling around the country. It was 1 week, y'all, before I told my wife, I got to have a firearm again.
Yeah.
I never felt unsafe cruising around these Caribbean third world nations, but when I came back to the States, I felt, wow, I feel unsafe.
Interesting.
When characters, maybe it was something like we would.
Also, maybe familiarity of like, oh, what can go wrong here?
Correct. When there's more people, and also, you know, it felt like sometimes we'd be on a road, like we're 500 miles between here and where we're going, and we might stop and maybe sleep overnight in a Walmart parking lot, and I hear shiftiness outside, and I'm like, ah.
Yeah, but also, you know that you're allowed to carry a gun here. Other countries, the rules might not.
Well, and that was largely why I didn't, right? That was largely why I didn't over there, because the reality is I may have to check my firearm here in one part of the country, but we leave south out of here. Now, y'all, we're 500 miles from there to leave the country, and my boat goes 7 knots, right? So that's not practical. You know, I was one time, just a funny story, I'll turn it over to you, is we were in Nassau in the Bahamas, and we got the Royal Defense Force boarded us, wanted to check all of our docks, boarded us and everything. And he said, the guy said, hey, he said, do you have any firearms aboard? And I said, no, sir, I don't. And he said, he looked at my transom and he said, you're flagged in Texas, Dallas, Texas, U.S. Coast Guard document. I said, yes, sir. And he said, if you don't have any firearms aboard, you're the only Texas boat I've ever boarded that didn't. And it's probably true, right? Anyway, go ahead, Andy. What drives you?
So for me, I think so you know this, you invite me shooting all the time.
Yeah,
And a lot
You
of
don't
times
go.
I'm busy, I don't
You
go.
don't go, no.
And I think it's kind of the same lines, right? It's not necessarily fun for me
Right.
to go out and just shoot, but at the same time, why I do is like, kind of like Vincent, like I have a wife, I have 4 kids.
Yeah, man.
My kids are 15, 14, 11, and 9.
Yep.
Like those babies in my mind are indefensible, right?
Yeah.
So I'm the defender, I'm their protector, right? Going back to like kind of what you were talking about earlier, like with, what does my wife expect of me? It's like kind of like your wife, it's like Kelsey knows she doesn't have an option.
It's
like,
happening.
There's no option.
Yeah.
But my wife shoots, my wife carries, my wife knows that her responsibility in that event would be get the kids out of this place. And I'm gonna go handle the threat.
Fair enough.
Right. And man, I think part of the reason I'm the handle the threat, I think it comes down to training, right? That's what I joined the military when I was 17. 3 days after my 17th birthday, I was on a plane to Fort Benning, Georgia.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like literally, I was in MEPS the day after my 17th birthday. 2 days later, I'm on a plane
How old
to
were
Fort
you when
Benning.
you went in?
I was 23 years old.
Yeah, man. And when you go in at this age, like, you don't know life.
Oh, no.
Right? Like,
Dude, I was
this
a
is
kid.
impressionable. You thought
I
you did.
was a
right?
kid, bro.
That's got to slap you in the face
Yeah,
a little bit.
You gotta think though, like from 17 until the time I was 23, 24, I was fully engaged in the military.
Yeah, wow.
So like my shaping, my molding as a man was that, right?
Yeah.
It was the defender, it was the protector, it was the soldier first mentality. So if I find myself in that situation, that's just what kicks in naturally, right?
Yeah. Right, and so, okay, so that's huge, right? And so quickly, here in a minute, I want to kind of get into what our loadouts are and that type of thing, but I think that you hit on that is really important. And part of why I train is because if this situation happens, it has to be muscle memory, you said, right? And so, like, what do we do to train? Like, my wife knows, I have, if anybody may or may not be familiar with SIRT pistols.
Yep.
Actually, very similar, you can buy one very similar to the Glock over there that is Glock, looks, weight, feel, everything is of a Glock 19. Okay, weighted mags, the whole thing. It's an inert weapon. No ammo can even go in it, right? But it gives me the ability, no matter what, if I'm working during the day, I have a few minutes, I just need a break from what I'm doing. I just get up and I'm doing dry fire, right? And that's because when the shit hits the fan, it's gotta be muscle memory. It just has to happen, right?
Yep.
Because, I mean, you guys know far more than me. Like, it's one thing for me to go out to a 3-gun match. And nothing's shooting back at me, right?
Yeah.
And there's a level of pressure that my heart rate's up and adrenaline's going and you make mistakes then. Well, it's a whole nother level when a threat's coming at you, I imagine.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I want to hit on something that you hit earlier, right? You talked about mentality, mindset when walking away from that, right?
Yep.
I think that's another reason that like someone like myself would run towards a threat, because let's just put ourselves in the same room, right? I would rather it be me than you, because the reality is no one walks away from that situation. No one walks away from pulling the trigger towards another human life the same, period. I don't care if you're the coldest, baddest dude that's pulled the most triggers in any branch of service. You don't walk away mentally, emotionally, spiritually the same, right? We did a whole, earlier this year, we did a men's mental health wellness retreat with Vince, and we spent an entire session just talking about moral injury, right? Our morals being damaged and injured when you engage what you should not or ought not really mentally ever have to perceive, right?
Yeah.
So for me, I look at it like I've been there before. I've been in combat. I've pulled those triggers. I know what that feels like. I know the emotional distress. So somebody who never has, regardless of training, I'd rather take that on than let you take it on.
And I appreciate that,
right?
But at the end of the day, if something goes down and we're together, we're in this together, boys, right?
Probably a better shot.
Let's go, right? And so with that in mind,
You've trained a lot more than I have recently, bro.
Dude trains a lot.
And so with that in mind, right, and like one thing I do want to, in future episodes, absolutely have a talk about mental illness.
Absolutely.
Right? Mental health and making sure we're right, we're all good. And really the concept that as it's the whole thing when you get on a plane and they do the talk, you're getting on a plane and they say, put on your mask before you can help somebody else.
Absolutely.
It's exactly that, right? If our mental health ain't right, we can't help other people. So we'll get into that later, right?
Yeah.
But let's go ahead and talk about kind of loadout and what we do in this, kind of daily. And one thing I want everybody that's listening and to realize is I think there's this false hope for people if you're new to carrying a firearm or deciding maybe you want to do this. I think sometimes there's this sense that I can now go places that I couldn't go before because now I'm protected, right? And to be honest, that to me feels like a terrible idea, and it's a false thing.
Yeah.
In other words, if now that I carry a firearm, why would I go down to that ghetto that I never would have before? Like, that's asking for a problem, right?
Yeah, no.
Like, if you didn't go there before the gun, don't go there now.
Yep.
Right? Just don't.
Yeah.
And so that to me comes into, what are all the things that we can do before we ever get to a point to where these matter, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's being, to me, tactically aware and realizing that when I go into a restaurant, my wife knows I'm taking the seat that sees the door.
Right.
There's a no chance, that's just gonna happen, right? And then the other is I'm walking out of a mall and there's some shifty guy over there. I say hello to everybody. I make eye contact with everybody because I want them to know that I know they're there.
Yeah.
It's the whole lion and antelope thing, right? If you can't sneak up on him. So that's kind of one thing. And then also as I get into it, I guess I'll go first and talk about kind of my daily. I also understand that depending on where I'm going, there's different levels of things and how I carry. And so I kind of think about it as a level 1, 2, and 3 thing. So like level 1 straight up is I'm not going out with no way to defend myself.
Yeah.
And so for me, level 1 is I'm probably gonna, at the very minimum, I'm gonna have, some form of a blade, right? Some form. This is barely anything, but I'm definitely not going out with something like that, right? And then, and for me, it's difficult. It's hard for me to carry a firearm and be concealed tactically if I'm wearing a suit.
Yeah.
Because I got a tucked in shirt at that point. There's no way to cover it. I need a shirt to cover it. And if I'm wearing a suit jacket, there's some point, look, I get hot, y'all.
Yeah.
So I'm probably gonna wanna take it off at some point, right? We're big dudes. And so I'm gonna take it off. Well, how do I conceal it if I take that off, right? So that's hard for me. And so if I'm going to a nice dinner, I may have a fixed blade on me or something like that I can conceal.
Yeah.
That's kind of one. Now, 90% of the time, I'm gonna have exactly what we have sitting in front of us right here, right? So this is my daily carry, along with a knife, usually a blade of some kind. Just a simple in the waistband
I had
holster.
the same one.
Just simple in the waist. This is a nylon one. And here, and just make sure everybody understands we're clear, right?
Yep.
We're clear, nothing's in the firearms. So this here is a Springfield Hellcat. Okay, I carry 2 different Springfield Hellcats, both that have red dot optics on them. And I usually have a magazine in the firearm. I carry one in the chamber because to me that makes sense. If a situation happens, it's usually gonna be inside a 21 foot. You don't have time to rack that slide, right? And so I carry 2 different Springfield Hellcats. This one is the standard, I think it's OSB maybe. But I carry this one because it's also the smallest firearm that I feel comfortable with, that I can do the work, and it carries 15 rounds, right? To be reality, if I can't solve the threat in 15 rounds,
Run.
Get the hell out of there, right? Get the hell out of there, right? And so the other is I have a Springfield Hellcat Pro, which is the bigger version of that gun. And really I like that because I have a longer sight radius and whatnot. I can hit things a little cleaner and better. So, but I go back and forth between those, but 90% of the time it's exactly that. And I carry in the waistband, shirt over, whatever. And I usually carry, everywhere from kind of 2 to 4 o'clock, somewhere in there is usually where I am. Big dudes, stomachs and stuff, it moves when I get in the car a little bit, right? And so then if we're in the car, let's talk about that. Is my firearm on me in the car? No, my firearm isn't on me in the car. It's in the console, it's reachable, or most of the time it's on, it's on a Vulcan mount. It's on a quick draw mount that's right there, and it's magnetic and I can grab it and go. Because the reality is if I get pinned in and somebody comes from this side, I don't have time to be like, okay, let me get this gun out, right? I just need to be able to go. And then tactically think about how I would also handle that situation. If somebody's right here and they're high enough they may not be able to see, I'm probably grabbing the gun and shooting straight through the door if I need, right? Things like that. So that's kind of mine, right? And then different levels, I go as far as, so like here's a backpack. This is an Eberly stock pack. Within this, I can fit a breakdown rifle. Something like a fold AR that folds at the barrel, and you can have a full 16-inch, firearm in there, right? And so you just, that's kind of my daily.
I have almost exactly the same.
Do you? Tell us
I'm
about
just
yours.
left-handed. The only thing is, so I've used right here. I have a Glock 26. This is ambidextrous. I'm left-handed. I just like the fact that I could manage it. And it's just something I've been comfortable with doing. And so I go with the ambidextrous. I also have a 19X, right, for the same exact reason. So the 19X is bigger. I have a red dot on that one. That one I like to carry around more often. I was living in Utah for 7 years, so a lot of big jackets, a lot of, so I can carry that.
Well, so that's the thing, right? The bigger, the more, like in winter, I carry myself myself carrying full-size firearms because I want the bigger gun I can.
Exactly. So in the winter times, I have big jackets, big hoodies. I always carry that. Around here, Texas, this is what I got recently. Just carrying it around in a fanny pack kind of style. The smaller, compact, it fits well. It's easy to do. Got extended mags. These are just one for my hand grip because I have big hands, but two, it adds a couple more rounds into it. We're good to go. So that's how I carry. I have a backpack as well. I didn't want to say it, but I have a backpack, folded stock, everything.
There you go.
Pull it out if I need to go, but that's usually in the vehicle somewhere. If it's in the, we have two different vehicles, so depending on which vehicle I'm driving, I'll have it place something different. I have med kits and all my.
So your backpack, your go bag, let's say, right? Yeah. So in your go bag, where is it in the car? Is it in the trunk?
No, so in my car, I'll put that one in the trunk because that one I'm sometimes just driving across the country, and so I'm just very curious about what I'm very nervous about what I get in trouble with. But in my family one, we have a spot underneath the seat where I usually keep one. So that's kind of.
And so that's interesting, like under the seat, right? Yeah. And so a good friend of ours that we may have on at some point, Ron Holmes, I did some training with him, and he always has his go bag literally right here in front of the seat and between his legs and the seat.
Oh, really?
So that he can, like, if something happens, door opens, boom, he's out, he's got the bag with him.
Cool, I gotta check that out.
And that's just kind of his way to do it.
Yeah.
And so.
The other side is that I'm lefty, so I don't have the privilege of reaching across here, so most of my guns come right here into most doors have an opening there, so I'm able to kind of either clip it there or slide it right in there, and that works really well for a lefty. So that's kind of what I do there. I always thought about if someone shows up, I'm gonna have to go to this hand and I'm gonna have to engage this way, which is so odd.
That's tough because you can't really.
I have to pull it from here, hand off, and pull the trigger here. But that's what, dude. Crazy enough, recently I got off the freeway. I was driving remember my tire popped 3 in the morning. 3 in the morning, I'm driving. And I got off the freeway and a car was following me, and it's kind of like that time.
I don't feel good.
I'm always concerned around 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock in the morning. People leave from the bars, drunk, whatever the case. This car was tailing me pretty hard. I made a quick right to kind of see if he was still following. Boom, he reverses, comes back.
Oh.
So then I had the gun where I had it ready. I put it under my leg.
You're ready
now. So now it's under the leg. So under the leg feels I can pull it right out of the holster if I needed to engage that way. I was nervous about that. Eventually, we kind of looked eye to eye, and he went the other way. I think he was looking for someone else at the point.
Okay, yeah.
So but one of those moments where I had to transition from this to even more ready and more kind of hot and ready position, so I could actually pull in if I had to get out of the vehicle. Because at that point, I don't want to fight in a seated position. No. I actually want to kind of stop, get out, and work, right, if I had to. Yeah. And so my thought was like, all right, get the seatbelt off and get ready to, like, if I had to, just dismount and start working from that position. So mentally, that's how I am. Personally, I was a medic, so obviously, after my infantry days in the infantry, I became a medic, and so I always have med packs everywhere. I always have some kind of
tourniquet. Here, I think I grabbed just an example of a med kit, right? Yeah. Yep. So these med kits, the exact same med kits are in every one of our cars. Yeah. And I also have it with my range gear that goes. There's always one with the range gear that's with us, right? And this is a Rhino Rescue one. I think you use the.
I use the Vulcan bag. Yeah, I use the Vulcan. This is the pistol pouch that goes on the front of the pistol bag.
Yep.
Perfect size to fit, really, like, I have everything except for the collapsible little backboard that you have in yours.
Yeah.
So everything else is in here.
Yeah.
Scissors, quick clot, tourniquet.
Yeah. Jump into it. You just,
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
Nice.
So it's all just, it's ready to go, right? And so I think there's also familiarity. And I'll say one other thing we talked about this is, like, the reason I have the same med kit in every vehicle is so that it is set up exactly the same, so that you can be trained and kind of just know, yet again, when motor skills start going away.
Yep.
You just kind of familiarity, right?
They teach you everywhere you go.
And so then with, like, firearms, I'll say something. So your wife carries?
She does not, no.
She does not, right? And so
I bear that one.
And I know your wife does. Yep. My wife, she says she does. She'll tell you she carries, but if I ask her where her gun is, it's probably not on her. It might be in her purse, if anything. And can she get to it in her purse? Probably not, right?
Yeah, I don't know if we've gotten to the point where I'm confident enough for my wife to carry. We've trained, but it's not to the point where I feel like, there's no need. You can worry about the kids, I'll do my part.
Well, there's that.
That's our plan.
There's that because you're right. So that goes into, if you're not trained for the firearm to handle it properly, you don't need to carry it. Right.
Whereas my wife is, but at the same time, I want to bear that burden. I want it to be a last resort for her. Her priority, get the kids out.
See, I think about it. So my wife and I don't roll with kids all day, every day. You know, we don't. But I also, if she's somewhere alone, I want her to be able to protect herself. That's the core to me, because obviously, if I'm there, it's on me, right? But But then it's difficult for women, right? It's difficult for the fear that a lot of ladies aren't as comfortable with firearms.
If they don't train as much,
They don't train as much.
Great shooting females out there.
Ladies
great.
typically are better shots than us.
Very much so.
My wife pulls out a gun and she is dead on.
But it just comes down to like, you know, in the way our family's situated. It's the same as everyone has a different standard operating procedure in their household.
Right. Yeah.
Mine, my lady is just like, grab those kids and get out of here. I'll take care of it. That's
well,
just
it's
ours.
like just and very practically for my wife, like where's she gonna put a firearm with what she wears? Like it's just difficult. She need to put it in something like that.
Yep.
You know. So anyway, tell us about yours.
So I carry the Springfield XDS Mod 2.
Okay. Why is that one specifically?
So this one specifically just because, you know, it's the smallest that I'm comfortable with. Again, clear.
Okay, clear.
Right?
Yep,
It's clear just so y'all can see.
Yep.
It's comfortable. For grip-wise, they have extended mags. Similar to what you said, this is a 10 round, right? So if I can't get it done in 10 rounds, bro, like Vince said, run.
Throw the gun out,
bro. I'm throwing the gun, right?
It's a ninja star at that point, right?
So 2 ways I carry. I typically carry in a Kydex holster, appendix carry.
You're brave. I am not about pointing the gun at my balls at any point.
Yeah, I typically.
I've done it here and there, bro. I've done it here and there, and I'm always the same thing.
But again, like because of some of the things that I wear, you know, business-wise, church-wise,
small the back probably,
right? Right. Sometimes small the back, but like appendix carry is just I know I can go right and quick. I've been trying out the belly band,
the Vulcan belly band,
Vulcan belly band.
Cool.
What's that?
So it's cool. Like these are actually really great for ladies too to help them because they can just straight around.
You're good, bro. You're good.
And carry an extra mag and the pistol, but for ladies they're great.
My extra mag's actually on the magnet in my car.
Okay.
So I typically carry 2 mags.
Okay.
Right. So 2 10-round mags, 20 rounds total.
Fanny
shorts,
pack, same thing.
Fanny pack.
Yep.
That's why I was trying that too, though, because I wear shorts a lot. Even in cold winter times, I wear shorts. But fanny pack, like example fanny pack. Vince and I are obviously friends in real life, so we went trick or treating with our kids. We took all of our kids out and slung fanny pack. And that's just what we did. And
it's become a common carry for like typical day in and day out for the average person. It's a style thing nowadays, so it doesn't even look.
It blends in, right?
Right.
Right.
That's always been a concern of mine.
There's a tactical advantage.
I don't want to walk
right?
around look like I. That's why this is a gray color. It looks like an average bag. Up here on my wall and stuff.
That really stock too.
This one's just
I
a
love all
straight
their
up
stuff, man.
So I pay attention now too to the side that, or so I always get
Which side the zipper is?
double zipper.
Yep.
So that I can go both ways,
each way.
So.
That's
I
cool.
pay. This is just a straight up JanSport one, right? And it fits this. It fits the XDE 45 model. I carry that sometimes when we talk about when it gets a little colder, right? Go a little bit bigger of a firearm.
I think on yours too, on your XDS, I think you have a grip safety as well on that.
So again, we had that conversation, and I didn't bring that up. So big part for me, and I know I have a lot of guys, Ron Holmes being one of them. They all get on me like, bro, you need to be a Glock guy. You're a Glock guy, bro. It's all about Glock.
Some guys are, some aren't.
When I got out of the military, I wasn't big on carrying a firearm every day, right? It just wasn't in my mindset, my purview.
Okay.
When we had kids, my mindset shifted. Now I'm back in defender mode, right?
Yep.
So, but for me, having small kids, it was like when my oldest 2 were born, right? I was like, man, if they get old enough where they can, you always hear those horror stories, right, of somebody picking up a firearm. And I was always taught the only unsafe firearm is an unloaded firearm, right? So assume that everything is loaded. Well, I knew if I was going to maintain that mentality and that mindset, I wanted to have fail safes that were it would be very difficult for a small toddler or a baby to pull that trigger, right? So something with a safety was always important. So this one, now that my kids are older, all of my kids have handled firearms. My son and I are actually leaving this week. We're going on a hunt.
Duck hunt, right?
We're going on a duck hunt,
That's
crane
awesome.
hunt. So like all of my kids are familiar with firearms. They're used to seeing them. They're not fazed by them. They don't my kids don't think guns are cool because they've seen guns in the house.
No, look, man, you leave a gun sitting somewhere in my house. My 18-year-old, the worst that's going to happen is he might clean it before you get back, right? It's probably going to be clean. That's it.
So so for me now, I don't necessarily worry so much. I have a couple of Glocks, right? I don't worry so much about that thumb safety, manual safety.
Real quick, just for people that may not be familiar,
but it's still there.
A Glock typically is not going to have, not typically, it does not have a mechanical safety at all, except for it has basically a trigger, safety there that has to come back, and that's it. So in other words, in the way I view this is the only safety that matters to me is right here.
It's right here. Right.
This is to me, right? And because to me, in a tactical situation, something's going down, motor skills, deteriorating. that's one more thing I got to worry about.
Yeah, that's
mine.
That's a thing also overseas. You know, you have your M4s who have selector switch, and knowing when to do that. And I'm always like, please do it right when you need it. You know what I mean? And for me, that's why I went to Glock, was like, well, if I'm pulling this bad boy out, I don't want a second thought.
Right. One less thing.
Yeah, and then I got comfortable with them. So.
Yeah.
Sure.
So like for Caden, like I'll tell you, like again, probably listen before you judge me. Okay, Caden was my first boy, so he was the first one I took shooting.
Sure.
Even though Kylie is my oldest.
Sure.
He's the boy, right? I felt like I had to do man things with the boy, right?
Yeah. Shoot guns.
So like, I mean, one of the things that I always told him, I was like, keep your booger hook off the boom switch.
Yeah.
Right? That's
don't point at anything you ain't willing to destroy.
Exactly. Yeah. So he was 5 when he went on his first hog hunt with us.
Cool.
And we let him watch as that pig died, right? And we explained to him.
You need to understand it.
You just took a life, right?
Yeah.
Regardless of of the soul argument, right? Human beings, animals, right? You took a life. You stopped a heart.
Absolutely.
And that's what guns do. Yeah. Period. All of them do that. That's what they're made to do. Right. So again, like I said, as my kids have gotten older, they don't think guns are cool. They're not fazed by them anymore. But this one still, like, it has the safety in the back. You got to press in, and then it has the trigger safety as well. So there's no longer the manual safety. But
Awesome. And so if I think we're all carrying 9, right?
Yes.
9mm, right? And so that just real brief, and it goes into, some people think they have to have a 40 or 45, and 40 is kind of out, kind of going out, right? Not real popular.
I carried one from the federal agent 40.
There you go. And they've even, a lot of the federal agencies are going 9, right? To me, the reason I carry a 9, just for people of this argument, like he said, don't judge me or freak out too much, but my thought is I can put more rounds faster on 9mm with follow-up shots more accurately than I can with a 45.
And it's easy to find 9.
It's easier to find 9. It's cheaper, and 9 is going to get the job done.
Yeah.
Because anything worth putting 1 bullet hole in is worth putting 2.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Did you hear the part about 4 kids?
Yeah.
Cheap ammo, bro.
Exactly, right? And so the other thought is, especially for people that don't train a whole lot. Yeah, you think, I might need a 45 because I'm going to put 1 round and it's going to get the job done. But you don't train, so what is the likeliness you're going to get that 1 round on target?
And the power behind a 45 is so different that you have to be ready for it.
Yeah, man. And so, anyway, guys,
what it boils down to is bullet placement at the end of the day, 100%. Right? It's what it boils down to.
A 22 will take down a bear if it's put in the right place. Maybe not. I don't know. I don't hunt. What am I talking about?
I'm not going to test that theory.
I mean, not coming at me. Right?
Yeah, but at the same time, you're exactly right, though. Like, I've never met somebody that said, hell yeah, you can shoot me with that 22.
Right.
Like, no, bro, nobody wants to get shot with any caliber.
I don't want to get shot with a BB gun. Yeah. Especially the ones they have now.
Yeah.
They aren't what we had as kids, right? These things look like M4s now.
So I think it boils down to bullet placement, right? I don't,
totally.
I don't need the 45 to feel like a man, right?
I used to have a 1911 45.
Yeah.
Big old gun.
And I didn't wear hearing. I was like, boom.
You're deaf now. Did you hear anything we just said?
Yes, dude. And I was like, what the hell did I just do to myself? And after that, I was like, what do I need a 45 for?
Yeah, guys. Well, guys, this has been a really cool conversation, I think.
Absolutely.
And hopefully it's been beneficial for folks that are at home listening and whatnot. And I think we'd like to do a lot more of these.
Yeah.
So if you can, hit the subscribe button. Hit the like. That does great things to make sure other people see it. And, check out what we're doing. We're having fun stuff. We'll keep having conversations. The mental health one's going to be real important. You mentioned a few others, I think, that we're coming up.
I think it's important that we kind of humanize what this is. And for those who are kind of curious about it, those who maybe are not comfortable with it, hopefully these conversations make you more comfortable to understand, these are just a tool that you can be very proficient at and be very safe if you manage these correctly. And so I think that's important to have.
And in Chris's case, fun.
And fun.
It's a good time, And I think that going forth, what I'd like to do too with you, Vince, is have more discussions like this where you do break it down for folks that are really just not comfortable at all with what the hell it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
I remember the first time I picked up a gun, it stovepiped on me because I had a loose grip and all this. I wasn't right. Yeah. And I literally put it down thinking it was going to blow up. I didn't know what was going to happen, right? And so there's a real challenge when people just don't know. I'm terrified of things I don't know about.
I think everyone is,
right?
And rightfully so.
Yeah.
And so hopefully we can make it more comfortable for those who are just curious about it.
I love that. And look, Vince didn't say it earlier, but I'll leave you guys with this too. Vince has an incredible book. I've got 2 chapters left that just came out, Borderline.
Yes, sir.
And you should absolutely check it out. I think you can get. Mine came from Amazon.
Yeah,
so,
Amazon.
I got the book.
Yep.
I didn't read it. I listened to
it.
So it is available on audiobook too for those of you that like me and can't read. So.
Thank you.
There you go. And the last thing I'll leave you guys with is, if you're looking for, cases, if you're looking for the way to store your firearm in the car, check out vulcanarms.com. Great products there. Waterproof, dustproof cases for your firearms. And then, of course, anything else you need, firearms, gunsamerica.com. And then also just really if you want to learn anything about firearms, there's an immense amount of resources there. So happy to be here today. Thank you guys again.
Yeah, bro, appreciate you.
And we'll talk to you guys soon. Thank you.